These have been spicier than in years past. Guten gardening, everybody. It is nearly the middle of October and it is stunningly beautiful out here today. I mean, if I were to ask for a more perfect day, I don't think it would exist here in Zone 5, Wisconsin. It is comfortable, it's not humid, it is fall, and I'm loving life. The one thing I'll say about this time of year, though, of course, is that here we're beginning to wrap up a lot of our garden. And today, and I haven't given you a harvest for quite some time, I think today we're gonna get out here and check and see what we've got still growing out here and harvest some of those vegetables. So come on with me and let's have a nice little fall harvest. All right, I'm gonna start over here by our beets. I'm gonna harvest a couple of beets today. Our beets, you know, at first I thought really weren't doing much, but I gotta say, even as the weather cools off, we got some pretty decent production. These are our Detroit Reds here. Some pretty decent production out of these beets, especially when you consider that everything I just pulled up out of here, leaves and everything, that's all edible. Well, I guess I won't eat this little part right here, but in general, we've got some pretty good size. And so we've been able to come out here and harvest these beets, you know, as we need them. You know, from my point of view, one of the nice things about growing beets is that they can handle some of those cooler temperatures, and they can also handle heat to some extent. You know, we have ours growing in the shade here for the most part because we wanted to make sure that we kept them from bolting as long as possible. And these have been out here all season. And again, I don't have to harvest a whole bunch of them at once and worry about preserving them. I can just take a couple here and there as we eat them. And we eat them steamed, raw, in smoothies. I was actually just talking to somebody about this the other day. They said that some people in their family love to eat their beets raw. He personally said, that's not for me. I want them cooked or steamed or something like that. We also sometimes make some energy shots with beets. So if that's something you've tried before, what is your favorite energy shot recipe? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to add some to our repertoire. By the way, I'm gonna come right back over here to these beets because I just noticed something down in here. As I went to pull that beet out, I exposed one of the potatoes growing in here. This is the Adirondack blue potato, which is actually far more purple than blue. There are a few plants growing in here. Some of our fall potatoes, our Adirondack blues, are growing in here. And if this is the size of one that just made it to the surface, I'm hopeful for a pretty good Adirondack blue harvest out of this bed. You know, as I'm getting ready to put our garlic in these 2 3x6 beds that have currently fall potatoes and those beets in there, I'm thinking about what kind of harvest we're going to get out of both for these fall potatoes. And I already know, at least to some extent, maybe some of the size of potatoes of our prairie blush potatoes, because I did a little YouTube short. If you haven't checked that one out, you should. A little sneak peek as to just one of those prairie blush potatoes. But I'm actually going to get in here maybe even today and harvest those fall potatoes because I'm going to get the garlic in here pretty soon. Now this is pretty cool. I'm actually going to do a YouTube short about this one because I like it so much. This is some broccoli grown in a food safe plastic container, but all of these heads have already been harvested at least once. But we've got so many broccoli florets growing up off of here, and I still can't get over how big this one is. This is not the primary head, but in comparison to my hand, it's bigger than my hand. Well, you can start to see it's loosening up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these harvested off of here. So a couple of different, that's pretty nice. This will be the third head about this size. Well, actually the first head was bigger, but the third head about this size off this plant. And then all these other little florets as well. These are gonna come inside with me too. And I'm gonna let this continue to grow. Now I did look at the weather forecast and it looks to me like if nothing changes right now, this coming Tuesday is gonna be our first day with temperatures below freezing. It looks like about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which means I have a whole bunch of harvesting to do. I've got some sweet potatoes. Maybe I can get them covered in time, we'll see. But I got some sweet potatoes to harvest out of here. I've got our winter squash I'm gonna be harvesting soon. And broccoli can handle the cooler weather like that. It's not that I'm so worried about something like 30 degrees, but that really helps you understand that the end of the season is almost here. No, I haven't really been harvesting too many of our bell peppers off of our green stalk here, But we've got a couple here that are to size. They're starting to turn colors. I don't know that we'll actually have enough time for these to turn colors. These were a really late planting here. We started them from seeds, but again, got them in here way later, maybe even a month later than I would have, or should have, I should say. But we've got enough on here where I think we can harvest a few of these too. Let's take a look. Well, I don't really want to see you on here. Are we doing any damage to my peppers? All right, let's go ahead. We'll get a couple off here. You can see what we're looking at here. Size-wise, maybe not the biggest overall, but actually pretty plentiful. One thing's for sure, I planted a whole set of these peppers. And again, they're looking pretty good in my opinion. Now, I am coming back to the fact that I got these in so late. I wish I got them in a good month earlier. It just didn't happen. Take a look at this on top. I wonder, well, what do you think about that? What do you think this is? We've done a video on something similar to this, I think, where, the plant actually starts to sprout inside or grow a secondary pepper inside. What do you think about that? Well, I ended up harvesting about a dozen peppers out of that green stalk, and I have more peppers to harvest as well later. There's a part of me that's kind of surprised that some of these tomatoes have been hanging on for this long. I'm going to pause by this sweet potato raised bed here, not for the sweet potatoes, but for a little pause, a little break. You see our red rat tails. I guess one of the plants, or a couple of pods anyway, fell down back in there, and now we've got some more red rat tails here. And we definitely have to give thanks again to Sabby for sending these to us. But if you haven't checked out our video on the red rat tail radishes, the radishes that you grow for the seed pods, you definitely should. Oh, they are delicious. No doubt about it. Now it appears as though I didn't cover up this cauliflower. It's turned a little yellowish. You see a little scalding here. I guess that's what I would call it from the sun. But that being said, that's a pretty good size. Let me put my hand to it for comparison. It's about the size of my hand. And I'm gonna go ahead, harvest this out of here as well, because we'll always take some cauliflower. And you know what? These imperfections, you see it on the tomatoes sometimes, with a little crack here and there. You see a little bit of change in color. These are still gonna be absolutely delicious. Don't let a few imperfections cause you to not eat your vegetables. All right, this one's pretty small. I'm gonna try to leave it for a few more days. I'm just gonna break this over top, just like so. Break the leaves over top and see if we can protect this one a little bit better. This harvest feels a little bit eclectic. We're kind of all over the place, but you're looking to see what's left at this time of the year here in Zone 5. If you have a Zone 5 garden, now most of my summer squash is in this state or worse at this point. We've got some powdery mildew. The leaves are dying back if there's this much life in them at all, but there's still some patty pan. This is that white bush scallop patty pan here that has been so productive, even in our patio garden, which is where I'm at right now, because I think these plants are just about spent. But I tell you what, as far as productive plants for summer squash, these patty pans were fantastic this season. I mean, I grew these in a lot of different spaces. This is in our native soil. You can see a couple more left down here, and as I said, the plants have pretty much died back. I grew them in our green stalk, and I got several nice squash out of the green stalk as well. And that got me thinking, we grew some of that early prolific straight neck squash. We grew zucchini. And I'm wondering, if you had to pick one of these summer squash varieties or a favorite summer squash variety, what would you choose? Would it be a patty pan? Would it be the more traditional yellow summer squash? Would it be zucchini? Let us know in the comments. Well, you see this? You know what time it is. Little garden candy break. Now here's a little challenge for you. If you can find a harvest video where the tomatoes were ready and I didn't stop and get a little garden candy in the video, I'd be very impressed with you. I don't think it's happened. I like a good volunteer tomato, and we've got plenty of beautiful yellow tomatoes on here, little yellow cherry tomatoes. A whole bunch on here for me to pick. All right, so maybe I had a few more than a few of our volunteer tomatoes. Some of these are not volunteer. You can probably tell the difference. There's some Amish paste in there. Hey, this harvest is colorful and actually much bigger than you might anticipate. Now, I'm not going to take any time in this video to harvest any of our kale, but it's still looking so lush. There's a couple of leaves on here that could go. But look at that beautiful kale. The lacinado's looking great. Our curly leaf kale, beautiful. Our celery, still looking fantastic. I think I'm gonna end this harvest with a few more peppers, maybe some of these sweet banana peppers. They've actually been really nice and productive all season long. You see a couple more on here. I came out and harvested a couple dozen from them at least, but I'm gonna get the last of these peppers off here. That's a good little handful. And then I'm gonna get some more of my jalapenos. Now I have harvested so many jalapenos off of just these 2 containers, and I have been able to let them all ripen to this beautiful red color. And from my point of view, these have been spicier than in years past. Maybe it's because toward the end of the season, I mean, we still watered them, but toward the end of the season, it dried off pretty good. And so, I don't know, I've heard that toward the end, if you water them less, they get spicier. Is that a thing that you know to be true? Let us know that in the comments if you would. One thing's for sure, I did learn a lesson last time I was cutting these up, and that is that even though these are just jalapenos, when I was cutting them, I wasn't wearing any gloves, and I didn't have a problem with it, you know, eyes or anything like that, but my hands were tingly for a good while afterwards, so I'm gonna avoid that this time around. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that quick fall harvest. I'm gonna get the last of my peach tomatoes, my garden peach tomatoes out of here. Take a look at that beautiful color. And I'm gonna do that all on my own. But you can see the whole harvest, the colorful harvest we have here in Zone 5, Wisconsin. And I've still got a ton of work to do because I got potatoes and sweet potatoes to pull out of here. Well, folks, if you did enjoy today's video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.